Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our July Wallingford Board of Education meeting. And with that, I'd ask you all to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I feel a little fish out of water being here for our televised meeting. Mrs. Lavelle, could I get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mrs. Castelli?
Here.
Mrs. Corso?
Here.
Ms. Levette?
Here.
Mrs. McKay?
Here.
Mrs. Purcell?
Here.
Mr. Reynolds?
Here.
Mrs. Raccio?
Here.
Mr. Ross?
Here.
Mr. Votto?
Here.
9 members present and voting.
Perfect, thank you. So hopefully everybody's having a great summer, and it's been good for everybody. I do want to do a couple of welcomes because we've had some major changes in what is our central office staff. So I want to officially welcome Eric Carbone at Mary G. Fritz, Amy Turner as our director for PPS, and Jim Bondi as our director for food service. So I think everybody started July 1st? Yeah. Does that sound right?
Jim started last Monday.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he couldn't be here today.
No worries.
Due to a prior family commitment.
Sure. But anyway, welcome to our district, and I think everybody's really excited to welcome these 3 new members, and hopefully it's a rewarding experience for everybody. So welcome. Student board reps, we don't have any. The joy of summer. Presentation and awards, we don't have any. The joy of summer. No. We always enjoy presentation awards because it always involves our students, so that's a good thing. And from item 6, question and answer. Do I have any questions from the vast audience present tonight? I'm going to take that as a resounding no. And with that, if I can get a motion to go into executive session for items E1, discussion of superintendent's evaluation, E2, discussion of acceptance of resignation, and E3, discussion of appointment of candidates for teaching positions.
So moved. Second.
I have a first, second, and a third. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We're in executive session. Okay, we are back. If I could get a motion to come out of executive session for items E1 through 3.
Second.
I have a first and second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying
Aye.
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 Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We're out of executive session. I'm sorry, excuse me. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.4?
So moved.
Second.
Got a first and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Item 8, items removed from the consent agenda. We do not have any, so that's that. Correspondence.
Yep.
Mr. Reynolds.
Yes, we have a few to announce. We would like to thank, Gaylord Hospital for a donation to the Wallingford Adult Education CNA program in the amount of $37,000. And we would also like to thank Masonic Care Health for a donation to the same Wallingford Adult Education CNA program in the amount of $25,000.
Pretty generous, always
Yes,
appreciate it.
very generous, yeah. Once
That's-
again, we are just so pleased to, well, I am.
We're very lucky to have
Yeah, to
community
announce
partners
these.
like we do. Yeah, agreed. Thank you for that. Item 10, committee reports, ACES.
Yes, thank you, Madam
Go
Chair.
ahead, Mrs.
We did not have a meeting because we don't meet in the summer. However, in your packet is a letter dated July 1st from the ACES Assistant Executive Director for Schools and Curriculum, and that's Mr. William Rice, updating a number of things regarding information on schools and contact numbers. And there's a whole host of things that are going on at ACES, a lot of moving and relocation. So in case you need to contact anyone with regard to any of their programs, all their contact information is listed on this letter.
Thank you for providing that to the board. Appreciate that. Item 10.2, Wintergreen Magnet. Mrs. Latour. Yeah, I'm assuming we'll buzz through
Yeah.
these. School to career rep, business think tank. I'm assuming you didn't.
No meeting.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
PTAC, no meeting.
Yep, thank you for that. Plan of conservation.
What do you think?
No meeting. It's all good. Food service strategic plan, I
No
think we're
meeting.
kind of,
We're gonna be
yeah, we're fine.
transitioning Jim
Yes,
into that.
with a new director, totally understandable. Mr. Deptula, four-school window replacement project.
Okay, that's going great. Everything's on or ahead of schedule right now, and we're not running into the problems we ran into last year with the
Nice.
unforeseen issues, partially because they did their homework last year and they started to look at the biggest problems, which was at Highland School. And so far, so good this year.
That's great. Obviously, this is your crazy busy time, so glad to hear you either are on schedule or ahead. That's a wonderful thing, so thank you to your staff. Item 11, old business. I don't believe we have any. 12, instructional committee. Mrs. Corso, you're up.
Sure, thank you. Item 12.1 is the approval of Board of Ed schedule of meetings for February 2020 to January of 2021. We have a schedule in our packets, item 12.1. Do we need to make a motion to approve those? Or do you want to discuss them first?
Well, we do.
Make the motion.
Yeah, we need to approve it, so, yeah, if you want to get a motion.
Can I get a motion to approve our Board of Education schedule of meetings for February 2020 to January of 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Okay, 12.2 is discussion and possible action regarding closing schools for the presidential primary and change of an early release day in October. Dr. Menzo?
I'll start with the first one, which is about the primary. We all know that last time we had school while the primary was going on, and I said there was no way that we would ever do that again. So that's why I'm here tonight, is because I cannot recommend that we have school on that day. It is a very, very busy day, and I'm anticipating it'll be just as busy this year. So unfortunately, and this was nobody's fault, so I want to make that very clear. No one knew when this day was going to be prior to us approving a calendar. Mr. Miller has been totally keeping me posted on every single thing. He had no idea when this was going to be set. So unfortunately, it is set for April 28th, this coming April 2020. We will have to close school that day. It will not be a day for students or teachers. We will go through the other unions to make sure that we are appropriately meeting their contracts, but we'll extend the school year, so the last day of school now will be June 11th instead of June 10th. The situation will be the same thing we've done, setting up for a regular election day, where Parker Farms will have its box lunches provided, so we'll work with cafeteria services. Everyone else should be fine, except the gyms on that Monday. The gymnasiums won't be available, but hopefully the weather will be nice. It's in April. We tend to, hopefully have a good favor on us at that point. But again, I strongly advocate that this take place, and I'm sorry that we're extending the day to the 11th, to June 11th, but I just know what challenges it brought for our staff, for Mr. Miller and his staff. I don't want to repeat that.
Quick question, it doesn't coincide with the SAT, does it? SAT school day? 20.
No, that's earlier.
Isn't that like in March?
It's earlier. No, it's not March, but
Oh,
it is
it is.
earlier, I think.
Earlier in April. Roxanne?
So I'm just going to ask, I don't know if this is a dumb question. Is it a foregone conclusion that there's going to be a primary? I mean, what if there isn't a need for a primary election? I'm just, and I understand, once you
Yeah, I
etch
don't-
things into stone, you want to etch it
I-
into stone.
I mean, we could come back to it, which
I'm-
I don't mean to be a hot potato.
But I don't know, is that,
But
is,
I don't think.
is that a foregone conclusion that there'll always be a primary?
I believe that, again, I don't know
Mm.
statutorily wise if there needs to be one. I mean, obviously, if there aren't candidates, I don't think, I don't, I would say that right now, this has been statewide, and I know my colleagues are making similar decisions. So
And I
would just
appreciate,
go with it.
I'm not saying I'm not in support of it, and I do know it was
I
challenging.
thought you do have to have a
Okay.
primary regardless,
In this
but I don't
town,
know
There's only
that.
one candidate.
For
If
municipal.
everybody else drops out, you wouldn't.
No,
Well,
this
this
is
is for
not.
presidential.
This is presidential.
This is presidential.
20, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is
But-
presidential.
But you got it, your point. I mean, if everybody else drops out and there's only
Well,
one candidate, then there is no primary. You're
well,
right.
that's what I'm
But I
wondering.
think they do,
When's
no,
the
I,
la- that's-
I don't see that.
I mean,
I don't think
technically they
historically
could.
that's-
Right, exactly, but it could. There
Well,
is
there's,
a
the House is
feasibility of it
also gonna
happening.
be
Yeah, it's the presidential, but is that also
But they
state
have to
legislative?
get, but the thing for the presidential election,
Well,
each state has a primary because they accumulate the representatives, and then they go to the national convention, at which time then they pledge their support. Each state pledges its
Yeah, so
support,
that
but you
it's-
can't pledge that support if you don't have the voice of the people. So I believe, and I could be totally wrong, but I know at the national convention, you have each state that has
Yeah.
their flag
Right,
and
that's
their
true.
name, and it's based on
On what happened in the
on-
primary?
I believe, and I can go back and I apologize, if anybody's watching this, if I'm incorrect, I do apologize and I will check on that. But, you know, I do believe that it ties all together, that, you know, it has to, and again, it's both party, I mean, it's not
Yeah,
just one
that's true.
party.
Yeah.
And my other
And it
question,
looks like one party will have about 5-7 candidates.
it
so,
probably is likely,
um,
but this might be an irrelevant question. So you didn't want to do, or you just didn't, you already had planned your PD days, or again, that posed too many challenges?
We wouldn't put a full day on that day. It just doesn't coincide with, I believe, what had been planned.
Perfect, that's totally understandable. Thank you.
I just had the other part of this, you just said closing schools, the early release day in October?
Yeah, that's the next part that we're gonna get.
Okay.
What was your last question about PD?
I just asked, did they consider the idea of having that as a PD day?
Oh,
But
yeah,
it just
consider
doesn't,
it.
it doesn't work for their schedules
so-
based on their PD that they've got planned.
So
Yes.
therefore, let's say there is not gonna be a primary. Can we, in our motion, can we amend the motion to say if indeed there is no primary, school will take place on that day?
And I think
Or
that's,
would you rather, we can always
Keep
change
it
it,
clean.
change it
Yeah,
later
I'm just
on.
concerned about having it, I would rather be definitive
Yeah,
and
All right,
go
I
from
think
I
we
there.
should.
throw that out there.
Sorry, I just think it's easier for people.
I mean, June 11th is fine.
yeah, it's still way earlier.
Still
Yeah.
very early.
Yeah. Okay.
Knock on wood.
Okay, early release day in October?
So originally scheduled for the 15th of, or the 16th of October, which is a Wednesday, and that is PSAT day. And that's not gonna really work for us to release students early on PSAT days, especially if students have extended time. We would then be cutting their day short. So I'm suggesting that we move it to the 17th, which is a Thursday, which then also follows the pattern of all of our other early release days being on a Thursday. So I need to just make that small change. We'll
Right.
communicate that out to families as soon as possible so that they can plan accordingly.
So
Yes,
does,
Mrs. Raccio?
sorry, I jumped. Go.
The only other calendar question that I had was the new legislation that boards can't set a firm graduation date.
We're waiting to hear more on that.
I
We
was
wanted-
gonna say, I'm guessing the state hasn't really given guidance.
I just had a conversation with our attorney this morning. We're waiting to get more specific guidance, as well as, we also want to see how other people are going to handle this, because we want to make sure that we want to utilize the statutory change if it makes sense, but we also have to account for the fact that if you set it too early, it's kind of some calculation, because otherwise, you know, the students, while they can graduate, we have to get clarification as to whether or not they still have to return to school after graduation. So I believe, again, I don't want to be quoted on this, so I'd like to take a look at it closer. I don't want to be the
I'm
first.
just thinking
Other
about
districts
it
haven't moved in this direction
the-
yet, so I'm kind of waiting to see how we're moving forward.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it from the contracting standpoint of the vendors for project graduation. That's,
Yeah, and
I
this
don't know
is-
how off,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
how
we
far
would,
out they start doing these
I would say
contracts.
that if we have a decision made by, I would say, end of October, early November, which I wouldn't suggest we go later than that,
Oh, yeah,
we
that
should be in
should be
perfect
Okay.
perfect
you.
place. And then our future contracts, just with that, contracts, our future calendars, we should probably, when we have the calendar committee together, take into consideration the statute, so that the calendar for graduation 2021
Would be a Friday.
would work
Yeah.
in whatever relationship we need to do it.
Okay.
We also have the added nuance this year, remember, of the fact that we have the parade because of 2020 celebration. So we have to factor all of that into this conversation as well.
Back to the calendar committee. Kathy and I are members of the calendar committee, And that specific day in October, the PSAT day, was a request from the teachers and administrators?
Yes, but logistically, they did not consider for any student who needs extended time, I would have to provide specialized transportation to get them home, and they would be the only students remaining in the school if they took the full allotted time for extended time. So that becomes the problem. I know logistically, they wanted it from a scheduling standpoint and a staffing standpoint. But if, if the student receives extended time,
Right.
and they take the full amount, that goes beyond the end of an early release day, and then I'm having to provide transportation home separate from every other student. So logistically, it just doesn't work out.
Any other questions, concerns? So
Just be a different day in October.
are we making a motion?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
the next day.
Possible action, yeah.
Okay, so can I get a motion regarding closing schools for the presidential primary on April 28th, 2020, and changing our early release day in October of 2019 from the Wednesday of PSAT day to the Thursday right after that?
Right, it would be Thursday, October 17th.
From Wednesday, October 16th to Thursday, October 17th.
So moved.
Second it?
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
And just as a point of reference, the reason why I was looking at my phone is I was trying to Google about the presidential primary, as you would imagine. And it appears that, from what I can see very quickly, that they are required.
Okay.
But again, if I find out otherwise, I
That's
will
fine.
inform everyone. But it does go into the national convention, and that's why it all ties together. I know I watch those on TV, I'm a geek, and you see the different states, and they have to report on how many, how their support lies.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, 12.3. I make a motion that the Board of Education accept with regret the resignation of Jessica Suarez, effective June 30, 2019. She has been a world language Spanish teacher since August of 2014.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Next motion, I make a motion that the Board of Ed approve the appointment of the following candidates to a teaching position for the 1920 school year contingent upon proper Connecticut certification as recommended by the superintendent of schools. For Moses Y. and Rock Hill Elementary Schools, Art Rian Lefevre. For Stevens and Pond Hill, Art teacher Angela Cipriano. For Stevens Elementary School, a pre-K teacher Jennifer Anderson. Mary Fritz Elementary School, an instrumental music teacher Sean Halpin. Lyman Hall High School, Earth Science, Diana Topurkis, and World Language French teacher Caitlin Cross. Mark T. Sheehan High School, CNA teacher Lori Stein. And PPS, an integrated preschool special education / ABA teacher Stephanie Dominguez. At Stevens, a K-2 STARS program, special education Jenna Migliozzi, and a school psychologist Brittany DiLorenzo. And our curriculum department, our literacy coach Emily Blinn.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mrs. Corso. Mrs. Levack, operations?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Discussion of possible action regarding the oil tank replacement at Mary G. Fritz Elementary School. Mr. Deptula or Dr. Menzo?
Okay, out of the 5 oil tanks that we currently need to change, this is the only facility that has natural gas. And in my opinion, we'd be better off removing this tank and not replacing it. It would provide automatic savings of around $50,000 to the town. And it's hard to imagine that the fuels will flip-flop, but they do go through periods. But we've been burning gas now for so long, I'm not sure that the oil prices will ever come into play again. And to have petrol products stored underground is a hazard that needs to be inspected and tested annually. So there's savings there, and there's some insurance savings to not have this oil underground. It's an easy thing to switch over because the school already has a dual fuel burner. We just won't be using the oil portion of that. So what I would ask is that you would consider that and allow me not to replace that oil tank.
Discuss, Mrs.
Yeah, so when you say not replace, but you do want to remove?
We will remove it.
Right, okay.
There
fine.
is an option that people sometimes allow you to abandon a tank in place, you clean
Well,
it.
that was what I was wondering.
And fill it, but that's usually only in cases like where a tank's underneath a building. They're
So
less likely to
accessibility.
do this for us because it is accessible. But that's an option too, but I would be looking to remove it.
Mr. Votto?
We do have other schools with the same situation, right, with two,
Not that are due right now.
say that again?
Not that are due right now.
No, I know
Next
that,
year,
but-
we will be looking at a couple schools, and
That have dual.
yes, and one will be Lyman Hall High School, and that's a much bigger decision because of the amount of fuel that's burnt there. So you
Right.
may want to keep that option at a high school, whereas a small elementary
Yeah.
school, it's not as important.
Well, that's where I was going with this, because in the back of my head, I always felt comfortable that there were two in the event. One didn't work or whatever, or the price happened to go up very high
Yeah,
on
and
gas. It always, it was like little protection.
It's mainly a price issue because, we've never experienced in my lifetime any kind of fuel that, shortages that kept you from keeping a building open.
Okay.
So it's the right thing to do environmentally, and I believe it's the right thing to do for our children. It's gonna provide a cleaner environment.
Yep.
Fuel oil it's a dirty thing, we have to clean the boilers a lot more, we have to tune up burners more often. When you burn gas, a lot of that goes away.
And it
So-
heats quicker too, doesn't it?
Not so much. It can, but fuel oil has a high BTU value per gallon. But that's compensated in the cost, so it really doesn't factor in much.
Mrs. Purcell?
Yeah, can this be done, taken out through the summer, or does it have to be due during the school year?
It can be
And
done.
where is it?
It can be done anytime. It's to the, if you look at the front doors to the right, there's a pergola that they built, I think, a couple years ago. The tank
Okay.
is behind that location.
Okay.
And it's a relatively small tank.
So it's not gonna
As
interfere
far
with
as oil
school.
tanks go, this is a 8,000 gallon tank, which is small.
Okay, thank you.
Is it gonna rip up that garden that's there?
They probably won't have to rip up anything. We may be cutting some of the pavement, but the pavement isn't a good feature of the garden. It kind of needs to go away.
Oh, all right then. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I make a motion that the oil tank at Mary G. Fritz Elementary School be removed and not replaced.
Second it.
Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13.2, discussion and possible action on revised interschool agreement and pricing for Holy Trinity. Mr. Barone?
Sorry. Hi. So we had a misunderstanding on the pricing at Holy Trinity, and we initially thought that they were higher than the school. We wanted to raise them as we raised the in-district prices, but what we realized is they were the exact same pricing, so we wanted to change the pricing of Holy Trinity to match the in-district pricing and keep it the same.
Any questions on this item? Mrs. McKay?
Yeah, I'm assuming based on the signature that the principal, Deacon Corraro, is in favor and is accepting of that.
Oh, absolutely, because
Yeah.
we reduced it by a nickel, so.
Oh, so we
actually
they-
reduced
oh,
it
got it.
from the initial agreement, so.
Gotcha.
It
So
was-
it's a
It was an easy
favorable-
conversation.
There you go.
Thank
That's-
you.
That's a nice one. Good, thank you.
Any other? Mrs. Raccio?
Do we even have to take action on this since it went into effect July 1st?
You took action on the other one, so we thought we'd have to bring it to you.
We just
with-
wanted to
Because of the
be
money?
Yeah.
transparent that there was a change. And they're not serving any meals as of July 1st, so while it did go into effect, we just wanted to be on the up and up. We're probably being overcautious.
I do too.
But I would rather just take an action.
And it was due, we had to get it in by the 30th, I believe, and also the deacon was gonna be on vacation, at the end of the month, so we had to get the signatures on it before the meeting.
Any other comments? Seeing none, I make a motion to accept the revised inter-school agreement and pricing for Holy Trinity School.
I second it.
Discussion on the motion.
I would just say,
Mrs.
can we say
Sullivan.
effective July 1st to just, you know,
Is that what,
make it,
Okay.
so there's no issue with the fact that it's.
So it's an
retro.
updated agreement, basically, is what you're
Yeah, right.
identifying.
do we want July 1st or today's date?
July
Whatever
1st.
the date is that's
The
signed.
Okay.
agreement,
Yeah,
July
it'd be
1st?
July 1st.
Let's just make sure that that's the, because I see a number of different dates.
Can we just say retroactive to July 1st?
Yes,
Yeah, retroactive.
I
to
like
July.
that.
Okay, that sounds, all right, let's amend this retroact. All right, so the motion will read, I make a motion to accept the revised inter-school agreement and pricing for Holy Trinity School retroactive to July 1st, 2019.
Second.
Second.
Okay. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Levack. Item 14, new business. I do not believe we have any. Item 15, administration report. Dr. Menzo.
Yes, it's been a busy summer, as you all recognize through the hiring that's occurred. We have still some openings, but we're confident that those will be all filled within the next few weeks, and the board will be presented with those in a timely manner. We also just wanted to remind people that school schedules for students and class placements will come out most likely the middle of August, middle to third week of August, just because of the fact that we are being very close in our monitoring of elementary classes, because if they reach a threshold that we need to open up another section, we want to give ourselves as much time to make those decisions. So I know it might be maybe frustrating for parents that they don't know the first week of August or second week of August. It might be the beginning of the third week. But I just hope you trust that we're doing that because we want to make sure class sizes stay within the guidelines of the Board of Education. And if the longer we wait, the better chance we have to have the truest numbers so that class sizes reflect the values of the Board of Ed and the community. So we just really want to make sure that everybody's aware of that. Another thing is that, as you all know, we're working still on career development and a lot of work with local universities and colleges. We are continuing our work with Goodwin. We had a great conversation. I'm looking forward to having Rob Covey, our Career Technical Education Coordinator, and myself provide some updates in August, some exciting opportunities for our teachers in terms of professional development, and really a really unique way of looking at providing those programs for our students and getting them a significant amount of credits as no cost to the district or the child. So we're very excited about those opportunities. We also have had a meeting with Yale University and Yale New Haven Hospital regarding our medical careers program. There'll be some exciting new opportunities for students come 2020. So we're very pleased with that. I also have been meeting, besides with Rob, with Tony Loomis, because we are really looking at a coordinated effort, pre-K 12, in the area of career development for all students, and looking at restructuring our career days that occur at 3-5 as well as middle school and high school to really look at it systemically. And we've set a date that is tentatively scheduled for next spring to utilize Oakdale to really making an event for all students, taking into consideration that we do things at different levels. So we're really trying to, and we created a chart to really demonstrate how our district is really K-12 looking at getting students, providing students and families an understanding of what is open to them, not only in our district, but also beyond. And really looking at this not just for students who, looking at all students, I should say, because when I say not just for, that is somewhat classifies. but looking for all students, where they leave our district and making sure they have the most success. So it's very exciting work, and that'll be shared with the board also come the fall. Last but not least, well, actually, two things. Mr. Reynolds mentioned the significant gifts this evening. We're very excited because in reviewing our balanced scorecard, thanks to Karen Vayu, our technology coordinator, we again are well over $200,000 of donations this past year. So that's pretty exciting. And it's truly a tribute to the collaboration and just the partnership of the community. I mean, when you talk to people, and I'm sure many of you do, districts do not get that kind of money on a consistent basis. And we're now probably a good 6 years of over $200,000. And that's just phenomenal. So we cannot thank everyone enough for everything they do, and our teachers and administrators for seeking those donations as well as documenting them, which is nicely done too. Last but not least, and I know you'll want to extend your well wishes to our 8 students who will be traveling to Australia. We leave Monday.
It's this Monday?
It's this Monday, the 22nd in the afternoon. We will be leaving and we will be returning home in the evening on August 2nd. I cannot say enough about this group of young ladies. But I also cannot say enough about this trip that has been provided to them. From having private tours of Sydney University's Robotics and Technology Center to having lunch in Parliament in Melbourne, being toured by the Minister of Treasury for all of Victoria, going and having a one-of-a-kind experience at a flight simulator that students don't usually get to go to taking a course at Swinburne University, to participating in VSEC, the Victorian Science Student Education Center that we're replicating at Fritz. These students are just being treated like amazing, and also going to the American Consulate and sitting with embassy representatives to talk about how do you become part of the American Consulate system. Sitting at a round table, having that conversation, having high tea also. It'll be a wonderful experience. So we're so very, very fortunate to have our relationship with the U.S. Department of Commerce, because these all came together because of that. And the trips that I was able to go on behalf of the U.S. Department of Commerce to make the connections. But it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm like a little kid, because as many of you know, this is not my first rodeo to Australia, and this will be my 6th time going to Australia because I went to university there. So I am like a little kid. Miss Latour has to put up with me on the trip, because I'm going to be the one that's like, look at there, look at there, look at there. So we're very excited. We have, as you all know, we have Miss Latour who's traveling with us. She's going to be reaching out, and she's going to be working with Victorian Education Department while she's there. Also, Mr. Marciano, assistant principal of Sheehan High School. He'll be attending, and he's going to be working with 2 high school administrators while we're there. And then Miss Friend, who is the principal of Cook Hill, will be when we go to Girton Grammar School, and she'll be visiting, and then hopefully going to visit some elementary schools while we're there. So great experience. We'll be sending out highlights like I did when we did the China trip. So every day students are assigned to write an update. I will make sure that you all get it, and it'll include pictures, and of course we'll be tweeting out. It's a little bit easier to do so in Australia. So we'll be tweeting those out. We'll be getting those out to everyone. And we invited the newspaper to do an article, so we're hoping that before we travel, the students will be interviewed, and then maybe when they come back, if not before, because we understand things are busy, but if not before, maybe do it after to share the experience. These students will then become our advisory board for our science center at Fritz. So they have a strong responsibility, because remember, they're all going into their junior year. So we still have 2 years with them, so they'll be our advisory board. And actually, Collins Aerospace will be meeting with us in Australia as well, which is key to our partnership. So it'll be fun, and it'll be very rewarding for all of us, I'm sure, young and old, as I was told today.
Well, actually, this partnership could not have occurred without you, Dr. Menzo.
No,
So on behalf of the board, I want to say, thank you. And that just doesn't happen overnight. Those
No,
are many conversations, and it's not just conversations, but it's showing that we are bringing something to the table, and we have value in participating in this program. And you demonstrated that for them, and through many conversations and experiences, it's proven itself out. So
Well, and we have
thank
already
you for
started
that.
planning for next summer, so the next cohort of cherubs will
And
be
it's
going
actually
to,
perfect
so
timing, because with the landing on the moon being 50,
Yeah. Well, that's
which,
all
which
this
by the
is.
way is on my birthday, Saturday. I turned 11. But the focus of women, even 50 years ago, and the influence, as minimal as there weren't a lot of women, but the influence that they did, if you've watched the news. So it's very timely in my mind to really put a spotlight on aerospace, and so the timing is really amazing.
And it was perfect because when the students met with the female representatives from NASA back in May, and people who worked on developing the space station that were females, they had a wonderful conversation.
I can imagine.
And the questions that were asked. So, and the goal is that the United States, when they have the next launch, which is either 2023 or 2024, a woman will be
That's the
going
goal.
to the moon.
Yeah.
And then from there, building a space station off near the moon to then launch to go to Mars.
Right.
So
Exactly.
we are at the forefront. This is, as I joked when I was tweeting out, I said that the next frontier for us is space, and I think it is. And Connecticut has a significant deep roots
aerospace.
in aerospace, and many Wallingford companies are part of the supply chain. So we'll keep you posted, and we're still looking at a ribbon cutting of the first floor of the center, and Mr. Deptool is working hard on this for January 2020. So we're excited about that.
Very exciting. Yes, Mr. Ross.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. I was
Sure.
asked today, and I forget the answer. Today's the last day for the survey.
Yes.
When will the...
Well, it was yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah.
I was like, wait.
When will the results be available?
Well, you should have.
I just couldn't remember the answer.
Oh, okay.
for
Well,
the
they're
public.
going to be at your next board meeting,
Yeah.
Okay.
August 26th.
Okay, this is general public information.
Yeah, it's been on our website, so just direct them to our website. This been communicated every week for the last probably 10 weeks. We've also done something on Channel 19. So again, August 26th, the announcement will be made, and then the idea is to then bring those to whatever the results are to the town council. So we are very appreciative of everyone who did submit. I don't know the final number because there was a lot that came in the last week. And so I know Karen's department, what happened with the paper surveys, and I'm glad you're bringing this up. Paper surveys went directly to IT. They did not come to central office, so they did not pass go. They went to IT.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of entering those today, which should be finished tomorrow. And I worked with Rebecca on that because
That's the
unfortunately on
consultant.
the paper copy, some people skipped questions and everything, so I worked with her to best record all those entries.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Manzo, and safe travels. Item 16 is announcements. I do not believe we have any. 17 has already been identified. Our next date, just to remind people, we have an abbreviated schedule in the summer. We only meet once a month for July and August. So our August meeting is Monday, August 26th, and with any luck, we will be back at the Robert F. Parisi Town Council chambers. They're pulling out all their, if you didn't see the paper today, they're pulling out all their chairs, and they're anticipating to have it done by mid-August. So our goal is to be back there for August 26th at 6:30. And unless anybody has anything for the good of the order, this meeting's adjourned.